So we have only 30 participants. We'll wait for 2 more minutes. Let others join. Like we
Okay.
had 50 in the last session. Huh?
Okay, we will wait, sir.
Okay, sir. 2 minutes. Then.
Sir, shall we have the last 10 minutes, that is from 12:50 to 1
Ah,
p.m. can be
ah.
used for that interactive sessions with the participant,
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Fine,
so
sir.
they can raise their questions. Okay.
Okay, okay, sir. Fine, sir. Fine, sir.
Okay.
So can you make me host, sir? I will share my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Make me co-host.
Ah. So shall we start now, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, it gives me immense pleasure in welcoming Mr. Navaneet for the technical session 2. Okay, right. So in this lesson, in this session, we are going to see some new innovations in LoRaWAN and its applications. Now I invite Mr. Navaneet to take this session. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So I think 35 are there. So in this session, we will go through. We will have a walkthrough through the LoRaWAN setup. Okay, right from the gateway to the backend. Okay, and to the application. Like we will see an end to end, and we will also see how you can develop your own LoRaWAN applications. Okay, fine. So the first thing is LoRaWAN has a lot of components, right? Right from the end node to the gateway to the network server to the app server to the front end. So we have again these things have further sub components, but these are all the main component. Okay, so node we can buy it. We should buy it by ourselves. It's a physical entity. Gateway again we can buy for ourselves and we can connect it to the network server, or else we can use an existing one if it is available. It's like a mobile tower. Let's say if Geo network is available in my village, then I can use Geo. Similarly, there should be a LoRaWAN gateway in your region or in your area. So only then you can make use of that to transmit uplink and downlink through that gateway. Okay, and the third thing is network server and the app server. So network server and app server, as I said, always sits on the cloud. So it can be on the cloud or else it can be on the local as well. So we will see both the possibilities how it can be done, right? So the first thing will be going through the things network, because the things network is very simple. Things network is nothing but the backend for the gateway, right? It has network server and application server in their cloud deployed, right? And it has two versions. One is the open source version, the community version, and another is the proprietary version. Like the other is the community version, right? So we have two versions. So what TTN offers, it's free of charge. It's an open source thing. It has a lot of user bases, because you can see in Coimbatore we have 5 gateways. These 5 gateways are for contributed by community. So I have contributed one gateway to the TTN community. I have used my own money to buy a gateway and deployed and connected it to the TTN network, so that anyone in my region can make use of that gateway, right? It's completely free of cost. Okay, and you can stream in data, and you can use a lot of clients like Java, Node.js, and things to connect your devices. Okay, and it also has a lot of configurations for payload definition and data storage integration and all. You can connect to a database and other stuffs to have stuff, and it is worldwide. It is free and driven by community. Okay, and chip stack we will see, but before that we will see the core components, like what are all the things we need. So the first thing we need is a LoRaWAN gateway itself. Okay, so there is microchip LoRa gateway. So it's a 8-channel gateway. Okay, so it's a 8-channel gateway, and yeah, so this the bottom one is right. So this is the node. Okay, all these things are node, but this thing is the gateway. So this thing is a gateway. This one, you can see it has a display just for monitoring purpose. It has an Ethernet cable, USB to PC. It has an no, it is a micro USB cable, and it has a Ethernet cable which acts as a backend, the internet backend. Okay, to connect to the server. And third, it has a USB power. Okay, and this component is the data concentrator. Okay, so this is the data concentrator. So this is the module. Here we have two chips, SX. So in LoRaWAN you will have SX1276. Okay, in the board you will have SX1301, I think. Okay, so this is an LoRa chip for end node. This is the 8-channel data concentrator for gateways. Okay, you will have these chips. These chips have been manufactured by Semtech. Okay, so this is the packet converter. So all the this gateway is deployed. So all the nodes LoRa packet will be received by this data concentrator, and it will be sent to this chip. So in this chip there will be a packet forwarder. Okay, packet forwarder. So this packet forwarder converts this LoRa packet into a UDP packet. Okay, so this packet forwarder responsible for LoRa packet to uh, LoRa packet to UDP packet. Okay, so after you converting to UDP packet, this will send it through this Ethernet cable. Okay, so through this Ethernet cable, we will have a third component called gateway bridge. Okay, gateway bridge. Okay, so this gateway bridge will be this gateway will bridge will use MQTT. Okay, this uses MQTT. This uses UDP. This uses LoRa. Okay, this uses MQTT to transmit this UDP packet to the cloud server. You can see this image. You can see packet forward is there, gateway bridge is there. From gateway bridge to the LoRa server, it is MQTT. You can see the MQTT protocol. Okay. Sometimes gateway bridge can be within the gateway. So here it is not within the gateway. Here it is outside. Okay. So sometimes it can be within the gateway, or sometimes it can be outside of the gateway. So here it is just a packet forward. In our case, in the microchip gateway, it is just a packet forwarder. There is no gateway bridge associated with it. Okay, so that's the thing. Fine, that's the thing. And second thing, you can have a build your own gateway. You can use Raspberry Pi. You can use rack data concentrator. You can see this rack data concentrator SX1301 chip, as same as microchip. It supports LoRaWAN, LoRa gateway band. It supports 433, 868, and 915. All the three frequencies for China, India, Europe, and America. And power is 3.3 to 5 volt, and ranges you can see 49.200 49,200 feet. Okay, so that's the range it can accommodate, right? In this case, what will happen is this will be your data concentrator. Okay, and again, packet forwarder. Okay, uh, packet forwarder and your gateway bridge both will be installed in the Raspberry Pi. Okay, your packet forwarder, just note down these things: data concentrator, packet forwarder, and gateway bridge. Okay, so these packet forwarder and gateway bridge will be sit on the Raspberry Pi itself. So Raspberry Pi has a Wi-Fi connection. Okay, so through this Wi-Fi connection it can connect to the what internet and to the network server. Okay, so two cases. One is the microchip case, where gateway bridge is outside and it acts only as a packet forwarder. And there's another case, Raspberry Pi and rack module, where the packet forwarder where we have LoRa packet receiver, and packet forwarder and gateway bridge both sits on the edge itself, on the local system itself, because the Raspberry Pi we can install it, right? So that's the two cases. Fine. So now what we'll do is we will not do one to one. So I forgot to tell one thing. Without using LoRaWAN, okay, so without using LoRaWAN, you can use point to point communication, P2P communication, with two LoRa devices. Let's say you have a LoRa devices here, okay, and you have another LoRa devices here. You can configure all the parameters same parameters for both the node, and you can do point to point communication. So this can send to this device and this can send to this device. You can do point to point, right? And also it can be act as a point one to many as well. So because this one sends the data is everyone is listening to the same bandwidth and same frequency and with the same spreading factor, all the devices can receive. Okay, fine. And let's come to the gateway setup. Okay, gateway setup, packet forwarder and gateway bridge and LoRaWAN, right? And server setup, network server and application development. So these are all the things we will be doing. So the first thing is gateway setup, right? So gateway setup. So I'll turn on my camera. You can see one gateway is sitting in my table. Okay, one second. I think camera should be visible. Okay, camera is visible. So this is the gateway. Okay, so you can see it is a RAK gateway. Okay, it has two antennas. One antenna is for GPS. So this antenna is for GPS. Okay, and this antenna is for LoRa. Okay, and this is the gateway. And bottom, if you see, it is a Raspberry Pi. So it's a Raspberry Pi. On top of it, we have installed the LoRa data concentrator. So LoRa data concentrator is responsible for receiving the LoRa packets and sending it to the Raspberry Pi gateway. So Raspberry Pi gateway has the packet forwarder and the gateway bridge installed in it, just pure software, pure C++ code or other Python code, which is able to convert the LoRa packet into a UDP packet, and through MQTT, it is able to transfer it to the cloud. So this device we have here, okay, it's powered on through USB. So hope you can see, I think. Can you see the device? Hello? Can you please drop? Yeah, yes. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
this is
sir.
the device we have in our table. Fine. So the next thing is this Raspberry Pi gateway is connected to my home network. Okay, I'll open the um, terminal. Okay, so this is terminal. From terminal, I'm opening Ubuntu. Okay, so this is Windows WSL. I have opened Ubuntu. Okay, once again, Ubuntu. Fine. So this is the Ubuntu uh, terminal running in my laptop. Okay, and now what I do is, now I will go to my browser. Okay, and I will check what IP address my device is connected to. Okay, so now we are setting up gateway. Remember that we are setting up gateway. So if I go here, you can see this is my home router. RAK gateway is connected to this particular IP address. Okay, so which is 192.168.0.103. So now I will establish an SSH connection. So SSH Pi at that particular device. Okay, I'm connecting to it and I'm giving the password. Okay, so once I give the password, it will get connected to the particular device. One second, it will take some time. I think the password is wrong, I think. Okay, so this will establish an SSH connection to the Raspberry Pi gateway, so that once it is connected, we can configure all the parameters. Okay, fine. So wait a minute, it's taking some time. I'll open a new terminal. SSH Pi at okay, so here it is connected. I'll close this. Okay, so you can see Pi at Pi is the username, RAK gateway is the device address. So from my system to, it has switched down to this gateway. Okay, so here you can just do ls, and you can also do sudo raspi config, normal Raspberry Pi configuration. You can change the user password, network options, and all sort of stuff over here. Okay, but for the gateway, there's another configuration. You can go for sudo. Okay, so you can go and add a sudo and gateway config. So if you give gateway config, you can set up the password and you can set up the rack gateway concentrator. I'll go to the option 2. Here you can either connect it to the TTN server, okay, or else you can use it as a chip stack server. Okay, so if you're connected to the TTN server, you have to choose the plan. Okay, which plan is like either Asia or Canada or Europe or India or Korea or Russia. Okay, I'm choosing India, and you can see server plan has been configured to server plan configuration has been copied. Okay, so that is how you can connect it. So that is one thing if you want to connect to the TTN server. And second thing, if you want to connect it to the chip stack, so you can see either you can use chip stack, like chip stack server is already built into this Raspberry Pi gateway, so that we don't have to connect to the TTN. Your network server and application server both can be installed in the Raspberry Pi device itself. Okay, so in that case, you don't have to depend on internet or some other external server. Okay, that time we are not going to do it because we need our device to connect to the TTN server. Okay, and you can restart the packet forward if required, and you can edit the packet forwarder config. You can see packet forwarder configuration is, I'll maximize it. You can see SX1301 configuration, LoRa public true, and you can see radio 0. So these are all the radio parameters that we can enable, like enable true, and frequency 865.20000. So these are all the frequency for India. Okay, and receiver offset -166, TX enabled true, minimum frequency and maximum frequency. Minimum is 865 to 867, right? So we can configure different frequency for our Indian band. Okay, this is Indian band. So I will scroll down a little bit to show you, because a lot of things are running in my system. It's slight hanging. Okay, so I'll scroll down. This is radio 1, this is channel 1, and again channel 2. For other channels, you can just give channel offset. Okay, so this channel offset will minus the original frequency. You can see channel offset 1, 2, 3. So you will have all these channels. So in India only 4 channel are enabled, I think, but basically there are 16 channels. Okay, and for TX and for uplink and downlink, you have to configure all these radio parameters. Okay, so right from the frequency to all sort of things you have to configure. And you can see gateway config. Gateway ID is this, and the server address. So the network server and the application server, right? The server address router.as. The things.network. So this is the address we are connecting to, and the port is 1700. So every application, every internet application will run on a particular port. Let's take TCP port is 80, and MySQL server port is 3306. So every application will have some port. So we are connecting to the port 1700, and keep alive interval 10, and statistics. So and forward on GPS. So all sort of configuration we are giving it over here. Okay, and yeah, so that's how we can do set up and packet call, like, and configure Wi-Fi and configure LAN or basic configuration. Okay, so now we can go and give okay, or else you can give quit. I'll give quit because by accident we could have modified certain things so that it will be get affected. Okay, I will just give quit. Okay, so now still we are in the Raspberry Pi uh, shell only. Okay, now let's go to the web. Okay, remember we have connected this gateway to the TTN server. So the backend for this gateway is the TTN server. Now I will go to the TTN server. Okay, uh, I'll go to TTN server, and what I will do is I'll I'll turn off the camera for a minute for some time. We don't need the camera. Okay, so in TTN you can go here and you can sign up. Okay, so generally here you will have login option. So once you give login, you will be asked for sign up. So just because I'm already signed up, I'm going to my console. Okay, so here in this console, what you can do is you can add gateway or you can add devices. So mostly you will not be adding gateway, because this gateway Raspberry Pi costs around 3,000 rupees. This gateway is around 10,000 rupees. So if you want to set up your own gateway, it will be around 15,000 rupees the total cost. Okay, but Node you can buy it for 1,000 rupees or 1,500 rupees, as cheap as it's available on the Amazon or other platforms. Okay, so you can see you can add gateway. So now we are adding gateway, right? So adding gateway, you can go here, and it will fetch for some default gateway if I have already added. So I'm already added a gateway, new LoRa gateway. Okay, so let's try to add a new one. So registered gateway. Okay, so here you can give a gateway ID, some default ID, and I'm using legacy packet forwarder. Okay, because if you are using Semtech packet forwarder, we have to click on this, or else we don't have to check on this. Okay, packet forwarder, there are different types of packet forwarder, right? and some description about the data, about the device, and frequency plan. You have to select which frequency plan. So now remember, we have configured it to India, right? So we can go and select India over here. And router, which router we need? So we need Asia router. So TTN Asia and TTN India. India, we have a router or what? In India, there's no router. You have to use Asia. We can use nearest one, and we can select we can give the coordinates. So if we change the coordinates, our location will be pinned over here. Okay. And also we can select whether the gateway is placed indoor or outdoor. So everything we have to configure. So if you give outdoor, then you have to give you a proper protection, rain protection, and you have to give proper antenna for maximum coverage, and you have to deploy it in a very tall pole. Okay. And indoor, you can keep it in your house, but the range will be limited to certain few meters, like maybe 50 or 100 meters. You will not get more than that. Okay. So we can configure all these things, and we can add your gateway. I'll show my default gateway. Default gateway is EU B8 something. It's a gateway ID, and its name and the owner. You can also transfer on. Status is connected, so it is always connected. Okay. And frequency plan, here I'm using Indian frequency plan. Okay. And the router, I'm using Asia router. And gateway ID, you'll get an ID. So this is your gateway ID. You can use the gateway ID to connect to the device and do certain things, right? Okay. And last seen 12 seconds. For every 30 seconds, it will ping the gateway to whether it is available, active or not. You can see received message, 44K message totally sent, and 10K message total received, right? And information, RAK gateway and RAK 2248, and location, you can see it is in the Coimbatore region near Tudilur. So that's the region where you're deployed. And status is public. So all sort of things you can get it here. And you can also go to this tab to get the traffic. So here you will get the uplink, downlink, and join. Okay. So you will get uplink and downlink traffic here. Okay. We'll come to that. And also you will get join because there is a process of joining to the network. So every node, after you configure the initial settings, you have to join to the network. Okay. Join to the join to the network server. So those packets will be coming here. Okay. And you can give settings, basic settings, same all sort of settings. You have owner, location, information, collaborators. So everything you can configure here. Okay. So that is how you uh, you add the gateway to the server. Okay. It is the network server. Okay. Add the gateway to the uh, things network server. Okay. So that's you have added. And the second thing is, and again in gateway we have two components, right? One is the packet forwarder and the gateway bridge. So packet forwarder and gateway bridge are already installed in the Raspberry Pi. Okay. So that if you go to the tutorial. Okay. uh, okay, one second. RAK gateway connect. Okay. Or else setup TTN. If you go to this tutorial, you will get a OS. So once you install that OS on your own, it will have all the component on its own, right? So you should have this gateway, and you need to flash this thing. Okay. You will have a OS like Raspberry Pi. You will have a Raspbian OS, right? For similarly, there is a modified version of Raspbian OS is there for LoRaWAN dedicated. Okay. So you can flash it in a memory card, and you can insert in the Raspberry Pi, and you can use the um, all the options of the LoRa server available, right? So, and you can see how to configure. Okay. Sudo Raspberry configure. Okay. And you can go and set password and all sort of things, what we have seen in the previous thing sometimes back. Okay. So that is how you have to configure. And packet forwarder and the gateway bridge are already within the gateway itself, right? And the network server, we are using the TTN network server. Okay. So three things we have solved it right now, right? And the fourth thing is application server, right? So before application server, we will see certain things. So why do we need to do application server? I'll switch back to the slide. Okay. So here in the LoRaWAN, we will be creating certain keys. Okay. So the first thing is device UI. Okay. So please note down all these things because we have a lot of keys and terminologies in LoRa and LoRaWAN. So first thing is device UI. Device UI stands for extended unique identifier. It's a 64-bit address. It is kind of like a MAC address, right? It is not changeable. You can see 64-bit end device identifier assigned to the device by the chip manufacturer. Okay. So it is factory default. Like in our laptop, we will have a Wi-Fi card, right? In there will be a module called NIC card, network interface card. So there the MAC address is fixed. Okay, IP address only changes based upon the router and the network you connected. Okay, local IP you will get on local IP on the network, and you will get a public IP, which is a common for all the device provided by the ISP. But here you have a device UI. Okay, and next thing is device address. It is a 32-bit address. It is created by the network server. So it is something like you can compare it with the IP address. So if you connect your mobile phone or laptop to a LAN network, your system will be assigned with some if it is DHCP, it will be assigned with some IP like 192.168.1.10 or 100 in some series. So that similarity you can compare it like device address. It is generated by the network server. Okay, and next you have app UI, application identifier. Okay, so here for both the end device, okay, and for the application, for both we have identifier. So end device in the sense, see if you come to this diagram. Okay, so here you have the end device. For end device also you will have a device UI and device address. For the application also you will have an address. Okay, so for the another side also you will have an address that is called app UI, application extended unique identifier. Okay, app UI. Okay, one second, app UI, it's a 64-bit address. And again gateway UI, so it is for gateway identifier. Okay, it's a 64-bit identifier. And next two important keys you have, network session key and application session key. So remember, a lot of things, a lot of people have been asking about the security reason, right? So this network session, because it is UDP packet, this network session key and app session key will be used to encrypt the data. Okay, we will see how it is doing the encryption. It's basic AES encryption, but like why two keys, we will see that. Okay, so once we have all these keys, so this device UI is already there. While you purchase the device, you will get this address. You have to add the device to the TTN network server, then this device will be generated. You have to create an application, this will be generated. Gateway, once you add the gateway, this will be generated. And once you want to activate the device, this network session key and application session key will be generated. Okay, fine. And now once after generating all these keys, having all these keys in your hand, you need to add your device to the network. Okay, so now remember, let's say you have a Wi-Fi device, you have your username and password. Only when you give your username and password and give pair or connect, your device will be connected to the Wi-Fi network, right? So similarly you can use two methods. One is over the air authentication. Okay, one is OTA. Okay, and another is activation by personalization. So over the air authentication is you don't have to give all these keys. You can only give the application UI, and the authentication will be automatically happened during the joining. Okay, or else there's another method called activation by personalization. In that case, you can yourself create all these keys and embed within the devices so that it is connected factory default. Once it is on, it will be able to connect it. So there are two ways where a device can join a LoRa network. Okay, fine. And yeah, so establishing link between the LoRa mode and gateway. So as I said, we have a device address, network session key, and application session key. We will see them one by one. So device address is a 32-bit unique identifier similar to IP address. Okay, unique within the network. So it is unique for a network. It is not unique globally. Let's say there is a single network server. It will be unique within that network server alone. Okay, so present in each data frame. So whatever the packet you send uplink or downlink, this identifier will be present. So this is the only way where you can find a device from which the data had come, or else to send the data back to the device. And you can see shared between end device, network server, and application server. So this device address is known by the end device on the network server and the application server. So only when the end device sends some data, it appends the device address to the packet and sends to the network server. Network server will able to find the address. So this is the unique identifier. Okay, and network server as well. And it's used to differentiate the node within the network. Okay, so that's the thing. And the second thing is network session key. Network session key is the 128-bit AES encryption key, right? So it is unique per end device and shared between end device and network server. So remember, device address is shared between end device, network server, and application server. So all three know the device address, but the network session key has been only shared to the end device and the network server. Okay, the end device and the network server, and provides message integrity for communication. It's end-to-end encryption between the device and the network server. And second, we have application session key. Again, it's an 128-bit AES encryption key, unique per device, shared between end device and the application server. So it is end device to the network server, it is end device to the app server, and used to encrypt and decrypt application data messages. Okay, and provide security for application payload. And you can see it provides security for end device to the network server communication. It provides security for the application payload. Okay, I'll show a diagram. So we have end device here, you have gateway here, you have network server here, you have application server here. So here to here it is LoRa transmission, LoRa radio. Here to here it is a IP communication, here to here it is a IP communication. You can see network session key is used to encrypt the data between the end device and the network server, so that someone who is having access to the gateway, because gateway is public gateway, right? Here we are using open gateway. So someone who is having access to the gateway will not able to decode the messages. So that is one level encryption between the end device and the network server. The second thing, there's another encryption key called application session key. This is between the data and the application server. So data is encrypted using application session key, and the entire packet is encrypted using network session key. So even someone is having access to the network server, they cannot sniff the data, because data is again encrypted. Only the application can be only the application for which the device is added can be decode the data. Okay, so remember, see, let's say this is the entire architecture. So here we have a gas meter. Okay, gas meter. So here we have a animal tracking. Okay, animal tracking. So here you have a dustbin. Okay, so you have three different devices using the same gateway and using the same network server. So how you can able to segregate or separate between these three things is, in application server, what you'll be doing is, you will be creating applications. Okay, one for forest is the application. So all the device, animal tracking or some other thing, will be associated to this forest only. So between the forest and the animal tracking device, there will be a app session key, and there will be another application. Okay, might be city. This city is a second application. Again, it has its own app UI. Okay, it has its own app session key, unique session key. Again, it will has its own app UI, app session key, and these app UI and session key are used to connect this smart dustbin or smart electricity meter to this device. Okay, so even though we have different end device for different application on the another side, and different thing on this, and to both side, you can use common gateway, network server, application. So these encryption 128-bit network session key and application session key are used to preserve the data integrity between the network. Okay, so that's how things works. You can see the another image as well. So asset tracking, gas monitoring and all. You can see here we have three application server. It's not that one network server. Network server is one common, and you can have multiple gateways, you can have multiple devices, but one single network server, and you can have multiple applications as well. So end to end encrypted, but from the device to network server, this key is used for packet from the device to the application. So here we have three application, so totally you will have three app session key. So this one you will have three app session key, one network session key. Okay, so three app session key for three different devices. Okay, and you can see this device address, frame counter, okay, and payload and MIC. So all these four data will be encrypted using the network session key. You can see this network session key, and this payload again will be encrypted with the app session key. So first you take the data, you encrypt it with app session key, and you feed in the encrypted data into the payload packet, payload location, and again you encrypted the entire frame with the network session key. So this is two-way encryption, so two very secure, right? Fine. And next we have ABP and OTA. So we will come to that ABP and OTA in detail. So now you can now you know what is this device UI. Device UI is for device unique address, factory default. Device address generated by the network server, and app UI. So this app UI is for every unique applications, and app UI will be generated. Okay, so that is app UI. Okay, and next is network session key, we have it here, and next is app session key, we have it here, network session key, and for network, for encryption between device and network, app session key for encryption between data and the application. Okay, fine. And next, let's see the ABP and OTA. Fine. So for ABP and OTA, I'll come here. So ABP for activation by personalization. For ABP activation by personalization, what you need is you need device address, okay, network session key, network key, app key, okay. So you need these three information. So all these three information are embedded or fed into the node while programming itself. Okay, so you can program a microcontroller, right? So you can program a LoRa device, and during the programming itself, these device address, network session key, and app session key, all the three are fed into the thing. Okay, so that is one way. Okay, shared key stored at the production time. So during the production time itself, we can feed in all the key and locked to a specific network, locked to a specific network in the sense, so these keys are generated specifically for a single network. So once it is created, you cannot be changed. Once it is created and fed into the device, you cannot be changed. Next is activation over the air activation. So here it is a global unique identifier and over the message and second. So here you only have app UI. So this app UI application identifier, right? So once you give app UI, this device address, network session key, and app session key will be generated on the air. Okay, network session key and app session key with three will be generated. So you only have to feed in this number, this key alone, and based on the application, these three things will be generated on its own. Okay, you can see over there authentication. You can see in device transmits a join request to the application server containing a device address. Device UIs we have, okay, and app UI. So it doesn't send the network session key and device address and all. App UI you send in and app key you send in. Okay, so once you send join, it accepts the join, okay, and decrypts the join request, and finally end device you will create device address, network session key, and app session key. Three things will be created and sent as a downlink for joining. Okay, and second, activation by personalization. In the production itself, you feed in the device address, network session key, and app session key, and there is no over there handshaking. The device is ready to communicate. So once the device is on, it can readily connect it to the LoRaWAN gateway, but it is restricted to only one network because we have generated keys for only one network, right? But this can be joined to any network. Okay, that's the difference. So this will be the sample data. So app, this is user entered app UI. We have some numbers, the 32-bit data, and you will have app UI device address. It's 64-bit, 64-bit. It is 32-bit. It is 128-bit. It is 120-bit. So everything is in X format. So X data is one data is 4-bit, right? So F is 1111. Okay, so that's it's 8-bit, I think. Okay, so 1111. So total you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 digit. 8 into 4, which is 32-bit. Okay, fine. So now let's go to the sorry. Now let's go to the now let's create all these keys. Okay, so all you need is a device UI. So as I said, device UI is factory default. Only thing you need is device UI. Okay, so now what you do, you go to the console. Okay, I'll go to the console. Okay, once again I'll go to the already in the console. Okay, now go to the console. Now you can, instead of going to the gateway, you can go to the applications. So once you go to the applications, you can create your own applications. Okay, so first thing is you can see building and other applications. Okay, let's create a new application called Agree. Okay, and so it's an unique identifier within the network Agree, and my Agree app. Okay, and this application external unique identifier will be automatically generated. Okay, so this UI will be automatically generated. Okay, this UI will be generated, and handler TTN Europe or Asia or whatever we can give, you will give Asia. Okay, and we can create the add application. So once you give add applications, Agree already exists. Agree RK Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya. I will create like this. Okay, so you can see Agree new things created. Fine. So now you can see we have created Agree RKMV created this many seconds ago. You can get this application UI. So this application UI can be used for OTA over there authentication, and also can be used for application identification as well. Okay, so and you can see collaborators, and default key we have only one access key. Okay, this is to access key to externally pull the data. So forget about these things. So now we have created app UI, but still we have to create device address. Gateway UI is already there. App UI is all now we have created. Now we need device address, network session key, and application session key. So in order to create the device address, network session key, and application session key, we need a device UI. So device UI, you can while you buy the module itself, you will get by default. Okay, or else you can send some command to get the device address. Okay, now let's go and register the device. So while registering the device, you have to give the unique name to it. Okay, so let's take soil water Ramakrishna Mission Vidya RKMP. Okay, so we will give some random unique name to it, RKMP. Okay, so now what we need is we need the device UI. Okay, so device UI is a 32-bit address. So this is just a sample. I'm just giving the default sample itself. Okay, so we can give the data. So this data will be available while purchasing the board. While purchasing the node, you will get all these data. And you can see app key will be generated. Okay, and application UI is already there. Okay, fine. Now let's go on register the device. So once you register the device, you can see name is there, device ID is there, and method I have given OTA. Okay, so now we don't need over there authentication. We need to change it. So to in order to change it, you can go to the application. Okay, this is application. In application devices, okay, one device is there. Payload format, you can give any kind of payload format. Okay, and integration, you can integrate it to external application using MQTT or other GCP AWS protocols. You can see you will have a lot of integrations. I'll just show it to you. You have all things maker, data storage. You will have these three integrations. We will come to that later. Okay, and next is data. You can see any data sent to this particular application. Now, but the important thing is settings. In settings, what we have done is access keys. uh, Sorry, in general, we have given migration. In UI this, collaborative this, access keys is we have given default keys. We can generate new keys, but yeah, so we have all these configurations under the application, but we can change what, like we can change either it has to use OTA or it has to use the uh, ABP. Okay, let's come here. Okay, let's go to the settings here, where it is. One second. Okay, I think it's available within the device, I think. Okay, so we can go to the device, and within the device you can go to the settings. Okay, on the settings you can see activation method. Activation method, you can give ABP. So once you give ABP, device address, network session key, and app session key will be generated. Okay, now if you click save. Okay, now you come to the overview. You can see it has an application ID, device address, activation method is ABP, and we have device UI, a default device UI, factory default. We have application UI we have created for the application for Agri RKMB. This is the UI, and you can see the device address is this, and network session key and application session key. So it's a 32-bit address. It's a 128-bit address. It's a 128-bit address. So basically, we need device address, network session key, and app session key in order to connect a device to this particular application through the gateway. So here we have a common gateway, common network server, but we have a unique application called Agri RKMV. We have a unique device called Soil Water RKMV. Okay, so this device will have these three keys. Okay, generated by the network. This is factory default key. This is the key for this application. Okay, and we also have the gateway key. So gateway keys will be created while adding the key. So we will be having these 6 keys. Okay, any doubts so far? We will have these 6 keys, right? So and so this is one way. So now what we can do is we can use these keys. Okay, and we will have these device address. It's an example code. Okay, so in the T10 itself, we will have the example code, but I will try to use the, once again, I will try to uh, I'll try to show you an example code. Okay, let's open Arduino. Okay, we'll use Arduino. It's pretty simple. Okay, I'll open Arduino. A lot of things are running in my system in the back end, so that's why we are getting this trouble. Okay, so you can code it with any language. Okay, so you can code it with Arduino or Python or else JavaScript, so it's up to you. But and can be used with any kind of architecture. You can use Atmel architecture, you can use microchip, you can use ARM architecture, ARM embed kind of thing. So you can the choice of board is up to you. So for everything, the code and the logic will be kind of similar. Okay, so now let's open Arduino. Mm, and within Arduino, it's pretty small. I'll go to examples. Okay, I'll go to examples. In the examples, if you scroll down, you have to install the TTN. So you have to go to library and install the TTN stuff. I'll show it in the afternoon session, because afternoon we'll be building an end-to-end application, right? In that time, I will show you how to install all the stuffs. But if you have already installed, if you go to examples, if you scroll down a little bit, okay, you can see the Things network. So in Things network, you can see send ABP or send OTA. So if you click on send ABP, we'll have the code here. Okay, once again, I'll try to increase the size of the code editor. Preference and font size is 20. Okay, so yeah, so here I have a TTN library, and you have to give the device address, network session key, and app session key, all the three things. Okay, so once it is given, you can connect to the TTN server. Okay, so once it is connected to the TTN server, and once it is, the join request will be sent to the TTN server, and once the join is success, so this join request will evaluate the device address, app session key, and network session key. Once they are evaluated, the device is connected. So after that, you can see there's a while loop. It is continuously reading some data and setting it as a payload, and ttn.send bytes. So this payload is just an LED 0 or 1. Okay, LED button, LED built-in 0 or 1. So whenever if you have done Arduino, you basically implement the blink program, right? So in the blink, the LED glows 1 and 0. So you can implement the same logic. But as the LED blinks zeros and ones, you will get the data 0 and 1 in your cloud server, okay, in your network server, right? So that is how things goes. But you have to give these three keys. Okay, so this is activation by personalization. But if you do OTAA, okay, I'll go to examples, and I'll go to Things network, OTAA. If you go to OTAA, so here you will have app UI, the application key we have to give. Okay, and the app key we have to give. So okay, so the device address, app session key, network session key will be created over the air. Okay, so here you will have the app key. So once you go here, so in this thing will have an app key. Okay, the app UI, and you will have an app key, this key. Okay, so you can add this key to the key here, and it will do the OTA on its own. Okay, so app key is not here. This is an app UI. App key is if you go to devices. Okay, let's say now we will add a new device, uh, soil water 2. Okay, let's give a new thing, soil water 2, and let's okay, and the device UI will use the same device UI, and try to register. Device failed because already we have added the devices. Okay, we'll give a new one. We'll modify a little bit. We will add 6 Okay, this is not random. You will get it with the device. Okay, keep in mind this device UI, it's not random number. You will not generated by the server. Will be getting along with the device. Okay, and now you can see it is OTA, right? So here you will have the app UI and the app key. Okay, you have to give this one and this one in the code, in the OTA code, so that the device address, app session key, network session key will be generated on the air. Okay, so these are two methods you can connect it to the thing. So you can add the frequency plan here. Okay, this frequency plan will have like a TTN European 868 or TTN US 195. For our case, it would be TTN FP I and IN. Okay, 867. So that will be our frequency plan. Okay, so we will code it and we will build a system. Okay, fine. So now let's get back to the slide. So now you know how to generate all these keys. Okay, and also how to do authentication, over there authentication and activation by personalization, and how to send the data as well. Okay, so once you send the data, you can directly use the functions here. Okay, ttn.send byte, you can send the payload and the size of the byte. Okay, so that way it will send the data, right? Okay, and yeah, so we have all these things uh, generated, right? So now let's come to the chip stack. Okay, so chip stack, we have like two things, right? So one is the ttn. Ttn is free. We don't have to install all the stuff ourselves. Network server and application server already available. We can right away go and add our gateway and add our devices and generate keys and make things work. But ttn has a lot of restrictions because it is an public and open source thing. Even you own your own gateway, but you will have only limited access to your gateway, and all the data will be passing through the TTN network, so that it is not that protected. Like let's say you are trying to build a LoRaWAN solution for your own industry. In that case, using TTN is not a good practice. Like using open source TTN is not a good method. There you can go for TTN Enterprise, but it is premium. It is pricing. Okay, you have to pay a premium to use that. In that case, you can go for chip stack. Okay, let's get back to the chip stack. Uh, yeah, I'll just close this to save some compute power. Okay, I'll close all these stuffs because it will take unnecessary thing. Okay, uh, one second. Give me a minute. Fine. So now let's go to chip stack. So this chip stack, you can go search online and you can go to chip stack. So this chip stack is an open source implementation, right? So it's an open source implementation in the sense it is developed, it is sponsored by a company, and it is completely open source. You don't have to pay any premium. You can right away use it. Okay, so you can see what chip stack does is open source LoRaWAN network server stack. Okay, and you can see it supports class A, class B, and class C, and it has also has adaptive data rate, live frame logging, and channel configuration depends upon the band, multi-tenant, and APIs and integration for external data like access, and LoRaWAN 1.0 and 1.1 compatible. So the LoRaWAN protocol also has different versions created by who? Created by who? The LoRaWAN is defined by which entity? Can anyone give the answer from the last session? Who defines the LoRaWAN protocol? Rules and stuffs and all. Hello? Any answers? Yes or no? Not the community. Community can be used, but there is one group of people who define the standards for all these protocol. Let's say for 2G, 3G, we have 3GPP, 3GPPP, right? 3GPPP, third generation partnership group, like so. 3GPP we have like third generation partnership project. So they define the mobile protocol and stuffs and all. Okay. Similarly for LoRaWAN, who do we have? No idea. We have the LoRa Alliance. Okay, so we have the LoRa Alliance. So this LoRa Alliance, you can go here. So it's a group of companies, right from Cisco, IBM, Semtech, TTN, everything, everyone are part of this LoRa Alliance. Okay, so you can go to LoRa Alliance and you can download all those uh, part. Like you can get the complete details. You can see the resource hub is there. If you go to resource hub, you will get the you will get the basic specifications based upon region, based upon the protocol, and now the latest one is 1.0.4. But this chip stack can support only 1.0, and yeah, it can support both 1.0 and 1.1 as well because it is subversion. Okay, and you will have all those details like how it is helping the corona stuff and all, monitoring and tracking and all, right? So I have downloaded two PDF from the LoRa Alliance itself. Okay, I'll show that. So this is the LoRa Alliance information about the LoRaWAN. Okay, so I'll just make it full screen. Window view full screen. Okay, so we have this LoRa Alliance data. Okay, so so this LoRa Alliance, they define certain rules and stuff. We'll see that. So the latest one is 1.0 series. Yeah, we have 1.1 series as well. Okay, And you can see the LoRa uses, just a recap, okay, quick 2 minutes. We will just go through this Alliance document. Spread spectrum technology developed by Semtech, okay. It uses chipped FM modulation, okay. And you can see process gain is equal to increased receiver sensitivities, because the modulation scheme is that complex. It has higher receiver sensitivity and enables longer range at lower data rate, okay. So your data will be encoded in the form of chips, and you can see all the range like data rate, range, SF, bandwidth, and bit rate, receiver sensitivity, and time on air. So as the data rate decreases, you will get maximum range. Data rate increases, you will get minimum range. So here the trade-off is data rate and distance are inversely proportional. Okay, fine. So, and also we have adaptive data rate. Like few asked, like in the last session end, one sir asked about the how if a gateway, if multiple gateways are there, if multiple devices are there, and how they are configured. You can see it uses adaptive data rate based upon the distance and based upon the receiver sensitivity. It can change the spreading factor, okay, so that for each end device, all these parameters are modified. All these parameters are modified and adaptive. They keep on changing based upon the condition, okay, so that it is optimized for every data. It is optimized for faster data rate, maximum battery life, and maximum network capacity, okay, fine. And also if you see other things, it is for European band, okay. We'll leave all these things, okay. But why LP, low power wide area network, like bidirectional, acknowledged, okay. So, and also it uses simple star topology, because no repeaters, no mesh routing is needed. So one way communication from gateway to the node, from node to the gateway, okay. But behind the gateway there is a lot of networks, because we use internet, because the network server and application server, there's a lot of things involved. But from the gateway to the node, it is always star. Low data rate, low cost, long range, and long battery life. So these are all the ideal LPWAN, and ideal for IoT and M2M, industrial automation, low power application, battery operated sensors, okay, and smart city, agriculture, metering, and street lighting, okay. Because in street lighting, metering, and all, let's say street lighting, what you will be doing, either you will be turning on or turning off. You don't need Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, because Bluetooth or Wi-Fi for high bandwidth data, right? And you can see LoRaWAN network topology: device, gateway, network server, and app server, right? And you can see protocol, AES 128. You have two network session key and app session key, and you can see from network to device and application to device, right? And you have class A, battery powered; class B, low latency, scheduled downlink; and class C is no latency at all, okay. I also forgot to tell you how to configure class A, class B, and class C and all that we will see while building applications, okay. And class A, you can see bidirectional communication, but unicast message, small payloads, long intervals. Okay, for every 1 hour, you will be sending one uplink data. So end device initiates the communication. So you can see in class A, only the end device initiates the uplink. Okay, not the gateway initiates. Okay, so server communicates with the end device downlink during the predetermined response windows. So you transmit one uplink, there will be a small RX delay. In this slot, you can send the downlink, or else you cannot send the downlink. Okay, that is class A. The class B, bidirectional with scheduled receive slots, unicast and multicast messages. Okay, small payload, again long intervals, but periodic beacons from the gateway. So either it can be time scheduled, or else a gateway can send a beacon to initiate a downlink, right? And extra receive windows. So server can initiate transmission at fixed intervals. You can see here only the node can initiate, end device can initiate the communication. Here the server can initiate the communication. So we can see beacon, ping, and transmit, and it also has the two receive slot, and along with that it also has the ping slot. And class C, bidirectional, unicast and multicast, small payload. Server can initiate transmit at any time, because it is always listening, right? Okay. And we have three things: device address, network session key, and application key. But before that, an end device has to be activated. Okay, for activation only we are using ABP and OTA, right? So device address, network session key, app session key, we have seen all these stuffs, right? ABP, OTA, global identifier, over the air and checking. ABP, shared at the production time. All the keys are embedded in the chip in the production time itself, right? So we have all these stuffs, ABP and stuffs and all. Okay. Now let's see how the data goes. Okay. So now let's say we are sending a confirmed message. Okay. If you are sending a confirmed message, okay. So first thing, the node, the vending machine transmits the data. Okay, it received by two gateway. So this vending machine transmits data. It can be multiple gateway can receive the same data. Okay, two data will be received by same data will be received by two gateways. And the next is both gateway pass through the data to the network server. Both the data are sent to the network server. Okay, that's the second step. The third step is the network server forwards the data to the vending machine to the application server. Here you can see here it is two data, but here it is only one data, because this network server deduplicates the data and verifies the data whether it is from an trusted device which has been already joined to the network, or someone randomly sending the data. It evaluates all those things and sends to the application server. Okay, so once the data reaches the application server, it sends an acknowledgement. Okay, the vending machine application sends an acknowledgement. This acknowledgement again comes to the network server, okay, and to the gateway. But while during the downlink, sending the acknowledgement downlink, only one gateway is sent. Okay, because two gateway will not send, only one gateway which is nearest to the node. So how it will be find whether this gateway is nearest or this gateway nearest, based upon the uh, receiver sensitivity on the signal power and the RSSI. Okay, so if you get more sensitivity with this gateway, this knows, okay, this node is closer to this gateway. Even though both the gateway are in range for this device, this is closer. So this will send the acknowledgement to this gateway to the node. So the gateway transmits the acknowledgement to the end device. So that is one process. Okay, and second thing is application server message data. So how it is done? A smoke detector application server has data highlighted as smoke detector. So here we have a data, right? So here this data is sent to the network server. Okay, once again, yeah, this data is sent, and however it will wait for the smoke detector to wake up and transmit the data message, because if it is class A or class B, it has to wait for some time. This data will be scheduled here. Okay, and once it is wake up, what it will do is it will send a uplink. So when the smoke detect transmits, the detector messages moves upstream. Okay, so data will come, uplink will send to the network server. And once the uplink is sent, now the downlink is sent. Okay, so here the downlink is scheduled. Okay, the first case, node initiates the action, but in the second case, if the downlink has to happen, if the application server has to send the message to the node, it will send the data, but it has to wait until the uplink from the node. Okay, once the uplink has reached the application server, with acknowledgement, you will send the downlink data as well. Okay, so this smoke detector application now send the data to the smoke detector. So this data will be traveling and will be reach the smoke detector. So that's how things happen, right? Yeah, fine. So we'll yeah, so this is one thing. And the second thing, I also wanted to show you the regional parameters. So if you go to the LoRa Alliance resources, you will also have the regional parameters. So if you go to regional parameters, you will get this particular document. Okay, so this particular document, I will go to the top. This is for LoRaWAN regional parameters 2020, right? So if you scroll this document, okay, so here you will have LoRaWAN regional parameters for Europe, for US, for China, okay, and for Europe 433 megahertz, for AU I think Australia or something, okay, and Canada, and Asia, Korea, and India is there. Okay, so if you click on India, you can see India, we have the bandwidth is fixed, which is 125 kilohertz. The bandwidth is fixed, and you can see the frequency channel is between 865 to 867, but you can see 865.0625 to 865.4025. So this is one channel, this is the second channel, and this is the third channel. So here we only have three channels, okay, of each 125 kilohertz bandwidth. And you can see the data rate is between DR0 to DR5. So DR0 is 0.3 kbps, which is 300 bits per second, and DR5 is 5 kbps, okay, 5 kilobits per second, bits per second, and channel is 3. And also you can see other configuration. I'll scroll down, and you can configure these parameters. Okay, so while using LoRaWAN, you have to configuring only this data rate alone. If you give data rate 0, then spreading factor 12 is set. Okay, and 125 kilohertz bandwidth is used, and the bit rate is 250 bits per second. Okay, and if you want more, then you can go here, you can use data rate 5, and spreading factor 7 and same bandwidth 125 kilohertz, but you can send 5k bits per second. Okay, and these are all FSK. So 1 is 0 to 5 is LoRa, right? And radiated power like this, maximum EIRP you can give 0 minimum, one is 0 is maximum EIRP. Okay, and if you give 1, and again it's 2 dB, 4 dB, 6 dB, right? The power is measured in dB here. It is effective isotropic radiated power, EIRP. So in other countries we have restrictions, but here we can send it as configure, right? So you can give 0 for maximum EIRP, right? So next, what else we have? We have frequency channels for join, for downlink, uplink. We have different channels. So once you have become pretty familiar with the LoRaWAN and TTN and all, you can go and dig further in detail using and read these document. Okay, initially if you read this, it's not that easy to understand. Okay, fine. So meanwhile, I got a question: is Windows OS or Ubuntu better for LoRaWAN? It's Ubuntu only, because all the Linux, any Linux machine is preferred. Okay, so so even in Windows, I'm using this WSL. So this WSL is Windows subsystem for Linux, Linux operating system on top of Windows OS. Right? It's not a VM, but it's a Linux OS on top of Windows. Okay. Now fine. Now now we'll close this. This Adobe Acrobat will take a lot of memory. Okay. Now let's go to the chip stack. Okay. Now we'll see how to install the chip stack. So chip stack, we have it here. Okay. You can go and click on get started. Right. So you can see chip stack as gateway bridge. Okay. Chip stack as gateway bridge, network server, application server. Okay. And gateway server and geolocation server, and a lot of things we have it over here. Right. So first let's try to install it. So you can see the chip stack architecture. So the same architecture what I have shown here. Okay, you have gateway as a packet forwarder. This gateway bridge either can be with the gateway or else in the cloud server. Okay, from packet forwarder to the chip stack, it is UDP packet. From chip stack, from gateway bridge to network server, it's MQTT. From network server to application server, it is RPC. From application server, you can you can connect with HTTP, MQTT, InfluxDB, AMQP, Thingsboard, GCPA, PubSub. You can do all sort of things, right? So we will try to install all these things in our system now. Okay, I'll try to zoom out a little bit. Let's go to installs. So on installs, you will have different types of installs. Okay, so you will have like a lot of modules. Okay, so you can install a Docker. Okay, you can install Docker install, but we will go for general installation. So general installation is more common. Okay, so yeah, so here you have like Debian or Ubuntu repository. So you can go Ubuntu installation. So if you go to Ubuntu installation, so first thing first, you should have a Ubuntu OS or a Linux OS, right? And the second thing is, first thing you have to install the MQTT broker, a Redis server, and Postgres SQL database, SQL database, because this MQTT broker is kind of a, if you go to architecture, this MQTT is a PubSub broker. It's a kind of connection between the gateway bridge to the chip stack server. So it is it's a kind of intermediate protocol, communication protocol for communication within the architecture, within the stack itself. Okay. So first thing we need to install that. And Redis server is used as an in-memory database. In-memory database in the sense, temporary database. It's not a persistent database like RDBMS or other stuff where you don't persist data. It's an in-memory database. Okay. And third, Postgres SQL for to storing the data for long-term storage. You can see this is for long-term storage. It is for in-memory database. Okay. So first thing we have to install all these things. So you can use sudo apt install Mosquitto for Mosquitto broker, MQTT clients for PubSub. Okay, and Redis server and Redis tools and Postgres SQL. You have to install all these 5 things. Okay. So I'll open the Ubuntu. I'll install all these 3 things. Okay. So I have already installed all these stuffs. You can see already installed all these stuffs, right? Second thing is, now we have to set up the Postgres SQL database. Okay. So now we can go sudo Postgres SQL. Okay. You can follow the command. It's pretty easy. I'll just walk through the steps. Okay. You can go to the Postgres, you can go to the console and you can run the command Postgres SQL. Okay. Uh, I think it's not running. I think 1 second. Error could not connect to server. No such file or directories. Okay. 1 second. I'll start Postgres server. So we have to start the service before connecting to the database. Okay. So you can start it by PS SQL. I think it's not by this. One second. Okay, so here we are, like we will use this method. We are not using this. Fine. So yeah, let's get back to that later. Okay, it will consume more time. Okay. So once you have started the PostgreSQL server, okay, what you have to do is you have to create these roles. Okay, so you have to create roles for network server, for application server and network server. You can give some password here. Okay, so all these things are DB configuration. Okay, so in order for the chip stack to make use of the DB, you have to create the separate account for all those DB. Okay, now we are creating database for application server and network server. So we have created all these things. Okay, so finally you can quit it. So basically we are creating the database and account for the application server and the network server in the Postgres database. Okay, fine. And the next is we have to add all these repositories. Okay, so this we can install this network server and application server using sudo apt get only. Okay, so for that we have to add all these things to the uh, source list. Okay, so you will have a source list in your etc directory. So you can go to cd etc. Okay, you will have like etc and apt. Okay, so within this directory you will have all the source list. Okay, so this is the source list, so you can use cat source list. So this is the source list, like whatever the application you download, it should be available within this source list. So now we can add the ttn source list to it. So I've already added, but anyway I'll try to install it again. Okay, I'll try to install it again. So it's already there. Okay, it's already the newest version. The next thing is we have to add all the keys. Okay, so yeah, we will be adding the keys. Okay, this key is also already added, right? So I'll add once again. Right, executing, it will generate some new keys, because you have to install the packages from the TTN, from the server, from the chip stack server. So for that only you will be installing all these stuffs. And this thing we already have it within the source list.d directory. I'll show it to you. Okay, you can see unexchanged. Okay, now let's get into the source list.directory. Here if you see list, there you already have a abstract list. Okay, I will show that abstract list. You can see Debian, this link. Okay, so this link only what we are going to add next. Okay, so this we already have added. So once you have added the source list, okay, now we have to update the package. Okay, so you can follow this along. This is not something related to LoRaWAN. This is pure Linux commands. Okay, so don't confuse it with LoRaWAN. So even if you don't, even if these things seem confusing, just leave it, no issues. Okay, you have to give the sudo apt update. Okay, so I'll give the command sudo apt update. So once you give update, all the source list will update it. Okay, so after updating it, now we have to install the chip stack gateway bridge. So this is the first thing we'll be installing. So remember, in our application, okay, we only have the data concentrator. We need the chip stack within the server itself. Okay, so this chip stack can be either be with the packet forwarder in the gateway itself, or else can be in the server itself. In our case, we are keeping it in the server itself. So that's why we are installing sudo apt install chipstack gateway bridge. Okay, go there and install it. Okay, so it's not responding. Okay, I'm installing the gateway bridge. It's already installed. We can see it's a newest version. So after installing gateway bridge, now what you have to do is you have to start them. Okay, so you can find the configuration here. Okay, so this is the configuration file. I'll show you how it looks. Okay, we can give cat and the configuration file. Permission denied. Sudo cat this file. Okay, you can see this will have all sort of things. The gateway bridge will have Semtech UDP. It is using Semtech UDP. UDP bind is 1700. Okay, and uses protobuf for transmitting. It uses gRPC, and username password. There's no username and password. And MQTT server is localhost, because we need an MQTT server for communication between the gateway bridge and the network server. Okay, so in that case we are using local address. So 127.0.0.1 is a local address. Fine. Now let's go there and start the gateway server. Okay, sudo systemctl start chipstack gateway bridge. You can go here and you can start it. Sorry, I'll copy it. I'll come back. Okay. Yeah, sudo system. Okay, system init. You can enable it to start by default. So if it doesn't support this, you can directly invoke the start command. If you run this and if you start it, you can see starting chipstack MQ gateway bridge, and you can see it cannot connect to the 127.0.0.1.888, the connection file. Why? In the sense, if you see this particular diagram, okay, see this particular diagram, this chip stack, okay, this chip stack is this gateway bridge is connected to the PubSub broker, to the MQTT broker. Okay, so that we have to start the MQTT server as well. So I will open another Ubuntu shell and I will start the MQTT server. So in order to start the MQTT server, you can give mosquito. So once you give the mosquito is started, and you can see it's running on 127.0.0.1, running on port 1883. And you can see immediately you can see a message, new client connected. This new client is this gateway bridge. Okay, now we can see integration MQTT connected to the MQTT broker. Okay, so now we have our gateway bridge. I'll stop it and run again. You can see immediately in the first shot itself it will get connected. So now we have our gateway bridge and now we have our MQTT server. So we have two components installed. Now we have to install the network server and application server. Okay, and so any doubts so far? If you have any doubts, please let me know now itself. I can further elaborate on that topic. Any doubts so far? No doubts. Yes or no? Okay, fine. We'll move on to the third step. Okay, so third is you have to install the network server. So sudo apt install network server. Okay, so we'll open a new window. Okay, so we'll install apt install network server. It is already installed. It's already the newest version, but here you have to do certain things. Here you have to configure the things. Okay, so the configuration file is available in this file, etc chipstack network server and toml file. So here you have to configure all sort of things. So I'll show you how it, I have already configured. I'll show you how it looks. Okay, so I have to give sudo cat is used to view the file. Okay, you can see this is the configuration file. If you go to the top, you will have like certain default things. Okay, and if you come here, you will have the ready server host. Okay, that is first one. And the second thing is name is European 868. Okay, and frequency plan, everything you have here, frequency plan and a lot of stuff. And network server API, network server runs on the port 8000. So MQTT server runs on 1883. Gateway bridge runs on 1700. Network server runs on 8 triple. Okay, network server runs on 1700, and application server runs on 8000. Okay, and the front end runs on 8080. Okay, so now we configure all sort of things. We configure MQTT. Okay, we have MQTT configuration here. So yeah, so wait 1 second. It's not responding. Scroll down. I'll take another 2 minutes to complete it. We'll get into the Q&A. Okay. You can give the time zone and all sort of configuration here. Okay. And the important thing is you have to set the Postgres SQL credentials. You can see Postgres chipstack NS network server DB password and the chipstack NS DB name. Okay. This is username. This is password. This is DB name. So remember, we have created this thing here, right? So we have created a new role with DB password and we have created a database. Okay, so that is what we are giving over there. And once everything is set, you can easily start your network server. Okay. Uh, if it is Ubuntu, you can right away use it because it is uh, WSL. I'm starting it in a different manner. Okay, so you can give chipstack network server. You can copy this thing. Okay, and you can run it. Okay, you can run it. Chipstack. Okay, so you can run it. You can see Postgres is connecting to Postgres failed because we have not yet started the Postgres SQL, right? There is some problem with Postgres SQL. I will fix it by afternoon so that we can do end-to-end demo. So, and also we have to start the Redis server as well. Okay, we have to start the Redis server as well. For that, Redis server. Okay, so Redis server is started. Okay, so you need Redis server, you need Mosquitto, you need a Mosquitto here. Okay, you need Mosquitto, you need Redis server, you need gateway bridge, you need network server. Okay, and network server has to be connected to the Postgres SQL, but because Postgres is not started, you are getting some error. We will start it anyway. Some command mismatch. Okay, and finally we have to start the application server. Okay, so once again you'll start the application server. So application server, same thing. You can see here the configuration, DB name, network ID, network name, and frequencies. So all these things you can configure based on the region. And finally, you can install the application server. And these are all application server configuration. You have to configure it to the database, and you have to create a JWT key, JWT key. Okay. Now we can start the chipstack application server using this command. So I've already configured all these things. I will right away start the application server. Okay, so once you start it, and again you can see no configuration file found. Okay, because we have already have a configuration file, we will pass it. Okay, starting chipstack application server, setting up storage packets, setting up Redis client. It's already connected to the Redis client. MQTT also set up, but while connecting to the Postgres SQL, it getting some error. Okay, so we will fix the Postgres SQL by in the afternoon, and by in the afternoon session we will have the full end-to-end. Okay, so that's all. So we have to install all these things. Fine. And finally, connecting a gateway and connecting a device. Connecting a gateway and connecting a device would be similar to what we have done in the TTN. Okay, it will be same as what we have done in the TTN that we will see. And so you can see how many components we need. We need MQTT for messaging. We need Redis server for in-memory database. We need gateway bridge to convert the UDP packet into the MQTT packet, and we need packet forwarder to convert the LoRa packet to UDP packet. We need gateway bridge to convert the UDP packet to the MQTT to the network server, and we need network server to maintain the network credentials and operation network operation, and we need application server for application related stuffs. We can add application and configure application, all sort of stuffs, right? So we have these many things involved in the LoRaWAN. So if you use TTN, you don't have to do all these 6 things. Okay, all these 5 things, everything will be taken care by the TTN itself. But if you are using a custom build, then you have to install all these stuffs. Okay, fine. So any doubts so far? The last so now time is 12:53. Till 1 o'clock, it's time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat box, or else unmute your mic and ask the question to me. Hello. So in the afternoon, we will add a new device. Okay, we will have I will also show you the device. We will add a new device to our chip stack server. We will create keys, and we will add all those keys in the Arduino program, and we will we will flash the code to the board, okay, and the board will continuously fetch some data and transmit it to the server. And we also see how to build the front end application. So once your data reaches the application server, you also need a app, right? You need a mobile app or a web app to monitor the data, right? We will build that end-to-end system in the afternoon. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please ask now.
Participants can raise questions now. If you have any questions, you can raise.
So did everyone understood like the concept? Okay, what are the components? Seems like a lot of things. If you are completely new to IoT, these things will be overwhelming because a lot of components to install and a lot of configuration. Is it clear or still you need some more inputs from me? You can drop your answers in the chat box. Hello.
Is there any questions from participants? Sir, shall we conclude the session, sir, now?
Yeah, sure, sir. So
Okay.
we have 5 more minutes. We'll wait for 2-3 minutes if there is any question, and we will conclude.
Okay, okay. Sir, one of the participants, I think, Mahidin asked you about, is Windows OS or Ubuntu is better for LoRaWAN?
Yeah, Ubuntu only is better for LoRaWAN, sir. So if you are just developing application using TTN, you don't have to install all these components. So that all the server components, these 5 Mosquitto, Redis, Gateway Bridge, Network Server, and App Server will be sitting on the TTN server. Okay, in that case, you only need a node and an Arduino programmer to register your device, generate keys, and program it. Okay, but if you are trying to build your own LoRaWAN network, in that case you need Ubuntu. So this is an Ubuntu system in the Windows machine. Okay,
Okay.
so Ubuntu is more preferred. And any other questions? It might be a LoRaWAN dedicated question, or might be a general IoT question, because I've been worked in uh, mesh networks, cognitive radio, uh, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Thread, Zigbee, NFC. So it might be a general question. Again, Azure, GCP, IoT Core and all. I have a very good hands on those part as well. It's time for questions. If you have any questions, any doubts, please drop in the chat box. No questions? No questions?
Sir, shall I conclude the session now?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Fine. Sir.
Okay. Dear participants, so in the session 1 of day 2, Mr. Navaneet has started with what is IoT, then why we need new protocol, then characteristics of IoT system, what is LoRa, LoRa modulation, then LoRaWAN protocol stack, then new architecture of LoRaWAN in technical session 1. Followed by in technical session 2, he explained about the key components of LoRaWAN, over the air architecture, then activation by personalization, establishing link between LoRa and LoRa mode and LoRaWAN gateway, then device addressing, then chip stack, then ADR, that stands for adaptive data rate. So he also explained with the demonstration tool. So I think this session is really useful for you to pursue your academic endeavor. Thank you. You are also requested to rejoin the session 3 of day 2 sharply by 2:25 p.m. You are expected to rejoin the technical session 3 of day 2 sharply by 2:25 p.m. Thank you.